The crowd at the station was electric, buzzing with excitement and relief. Soldiers returning from duty were greeted with cheers, flags waving, and tears of joy. I stepped onto the platform, my heart pounding with anticipation. I scanned the sea of faces until I saw her, my wife, Jess. She stood out immediately, her pregnant belly unmistakable. My breath hitched in my throat, and my heart felt like it had stopped momentarily. Jess's smile was bright, but there was something in her eyes that I couldn't quite place. I forced myself to smile back, pushing away the doubts gnawing at my mind. As I made my way through the crowd of people, Jess broke into a run, her arms outstretched. When she reached me, she threw her arms around my neck, pulling me into a tight embrace. I held her close, feeling the warmth of her body against mine, the baby bump pressing between us. It should have been a perfect moment, but a seed of doubt had already taken root in my mind. "Welcome home, Alex," she whispered into my ear, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've missed you so much." "I've missed you too," I replied, kissing her forehead. "It's good to be home." That night, we sat together in our small living room, reminiscing about the past and talking about our future. Jess was radiant, her excitement about the baby palpable. But as she spoke, I couldn't shake the nagging thought. I had been gone for only 6 months. The math didn't add up. "Jess," I began cautiously, "when exactly did you find out you were pregnant?" She looked at me, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. "A few months after you left," she said, her voice steady. "It was a surprise, but a happy one." I nodded, forcing a smile. "That's wonderful news." Over the next few days, I tried to dismiss my suspicions. Jess was attentive and loving, but something about her seemed off. One evening, I met up with my best friend Tom, hoping for some clarity. "Hey man," Tom greeted me, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "How's it feel to be back?" "It's great," I replied, but my voice lacked enthusiasm. "Listen, Tom, there's something I need to talk to you about." We found a quiet corner in the bar, and I told him everything about Jess, the pregnancy, and my doubts. Tom listened intently, his expression serious. "Alex, are you sure the baby is yours?" he asked bluntly. His question hit me like a punch to the gut. "I don't know," I admitted. "I want to believe it is, but the timing doesn't make sense." "Maybe you should talk to her," Tom suggested. "Get the truth." The next morning, I decided to confront Jess. I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. I found her in the kitchen making breakfast. "Jess, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. She turned to me, concern etched on her face. "What is it, Alex?" I took a deep breath. "Jess, I need to know the truth. Whose baby is it?" Her eyes filled with tears, and she sank into a chair. "Alex, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "The baby isn't yours, it's Robert's. It was a mistake, a brief affair, and I regret it every day." My world shattered. I felt a surge of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak all at once. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my composure. "How could you do this to me, Jess?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "I'm sorry," she repeated, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to hurt you." I couldn't stay in the house any longer. I stormed out, needing air, needing to think. I ended up at Tom's place, where I told him everything. "You need to talk to Robert," Tom advised. "Get his side of the story." The morning after my confrontation with Jess, I woke up with a heavy heart. The weight of her confession still pressed down on me, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of emotions. I knew what I had to do next: talk to Robert. I needed answers, closure, something to help me understand why this had happened. I found Robert at his usual spot, a small cafe downtown. He looked up when I walked in, his face paling when he saw me. I walked over to his table, my steps heavy with determination. "Robert," I said, my voice cold and steady, "we need to talk." He nodded, gesturing for me to sit. I didn't want to waste any time. "Why?" I demanded. "Why did you do it?" Robert sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Alex, I'm sorry. I really am. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. Jess and it just happened. I don't know how to explain it." I leaned forward, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "You don't know how to explain it? You had an affair with my wife, and you don't know how to explain it?" He looked genuinely remorseful, but it did little to quell my rage. "It was a moment of weakness," he said. "We were both lonely and it just happened. I never meant for it to go this far." I clenched my fists under the table, trying to control my emotions. "Well, it did go this far. Now there's a child involved. What are you going to do about it? Robert looked down at his hands, guilt written all over his face. I'll take responsibility. I'll support the child. I never wanted to hurt you, Alex. I stood up, unable to sit there any longer. You've done more than hurt me, Robert. You've destroyed my family. Leaving the cafe, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. Confronting Robert had given me some answers, but it hadn't made anything easier. The reality of my situation was sinking in, and I knew I had to make some tough decisions. When I got home, Jess was waiting for me. Her eyes were red from crying, and she looked as broken as I felt. Did you talk to him? She asked softly. Yes, I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. He admitted everything. He'll take responsibility for the child. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Alex, I know you probably hate me right now, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her, the woman I had loved for so long, and felt a pang of sorrow. I don't hate you, Jess. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of our situation pressing down on us. Finally, I spoke. We need to talk about what happens next, about the divorce. Jess nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make this as easy as possible. The next few weeks were a blur of legal paperwork and difficult conversations. We agreed to a peaceful separation for the sake of the child. My family was a pillar of strength during this time, offering support and encouragement when I needed it most. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. It was a relief, but it also felt like a final nail in the coffin of my old life. I packed up my things and moved to a new city, hoping for a fresh start. My new job kept me busy, and I threw myself into my work, trying to forget the pain of the past. But it wasn't easy. Every time I saw a happy couple or a child with their parents, I felt a pang of loss. One day, I received a letter from Jess. She had given birth to a healthy baby boy. Despite everything, I felt a strange sense of joy at the news. I decided to support the child financially, even though he wasn't mine. It was the least I could do. Life slowly began to return to some semblance of normalcy. I started to make new friends and build a new life. But the scars of the past remained, a constant reminder of what had been lost. In time, I learned to live with the pain. I realized that forgiveness, while difficult, was necessary for me to move on. I had to let go of the anger and betrayal if I wanted to find peace. And so I did. Bit by bit, day by day, I rebuilt my life. And in the process, I discovered a strength within myself that I never knew existed. Moving to a new city was both liberating and terrifying. I left behind the memories of my old life, hoping to find solace in the anonymity of a new place. I threw myself into my new job, working long hours to keep my mind occupied. But no matter how busy I stayed, the thoughts of Jess and the life we once shared crept in. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I sat alone in my new apartment. The silence was deafening, and I couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness. I picked up the phone and dialed my parents' number. "Hi, Mom," I said when she answered. "Alex, it's so good to hear your voice," she replied, her voice filled with warmth. "I just needed to hear a friendly voice," I admitted, my voice wavering slightly. "We're always here for you, sweetheart," she said. "Why don't you come visit us this weekend? It would be great to have you home." I hesitated for a moment before agreeing. "Yeah, that sounds nice. I'll be there." The drive back to my hometown was filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I hadn't been back since the divorce was finalized, and I wasn't sure how it would feel to be surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of my past. When I arrived, my parents greeted me with open arms. Their warmth and love were like a balm to my wounded soul. We spent the evening catching up, sharing stories and laughter. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. The next morning, I decided to visit my sister, Laura. She lived a few blocks away with her husband and 2 kids. When I arrived, Laura greeted me with a big hug. "It's so good to see you, Alex," she said. "Come in. The kids will be thrilled to see you." As I stepped into her home, I was greeted by the joyful chaos of family life. Her children, Emma and Jack, ran up to me, their faces beaming with excitement. "Uncle Alex!" they shouted in unison, wrapping their arms around my legs. "Hey, you two!" I said, scooping them up in a big hug. Their laughter was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile. We spent the day together, playing games and talking about everything and nothing. It was a stark contrast to the loneliness I had been feeling, and I realized just how much I had missed my family. Later that evening, as Laura and I sat on the porch, she turned to me, her expression serious. "How are you really doing, Alex?" she asked softly. I sighed, looking out at the sunset. "It's been tough," I admitted. "Moving to a new city, starting over, it's been harder than I thought." She reached out and squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you think, Alex, and you're not alone. We're here for you no matter what." Her words were a comfort, and I felt a sense of determination growing within me. I realized that I needed to let go of the past and focus on the future. My family was my anchor, and with their support, I could find the strength to move forward. As the weekend came to an end, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Saying goodbye to my family was bittersweet, but I knew I would be back. They were my lifeline, and I needed their support to heal and grow. Back in the city, I started to make small changes in my life. I joined a gym, began attending social events, and even signed up for a cooking class. I wanted to build a life that was full and fulfilling, one that wasn't defined by the pain of my past. One evening, after a particularly good day at work, I received a call from Jess. Her voice was tentative, and I could hear the anxiety in her tone. "Hi, Alex," she said. "I just wanted to check in. How are you?" "I'm doing okay, Jess," I replied. "How about you and the baby?" "He's doing great," she said, her voice softening. "I just wanted to thank you for your support. It means a lot." "You're welcome," I said. "I want what's best for him, even if things didn't work out between us." After we hung up, I felt a sense of closure. Talking to Jess had been difficult, but it was a necessary step in my healing process. I realized that I was starting to let go of the anger and resentment, and in doing so, I was finding peace. In the months that followed, I continued to rebuild my life. I made new friends, found hobbies that brought me joy, and strengthened my bond with my family. I learned that healing is a journey, one that requires patience and perseverance, and through it all, I discovered a resilience within myself that I never knew existed. The pain of the past will always be a part of me, but it no longer defines me. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever the future held. Moving to a new city was a necessary step to find some distance and clarity. With my military service behind me, I was ready to start fresh. However, transitioning to civilian life came with its own set of challenges, including sorting out financial and legal matters. I met with my attorney, Mark, a sharp and compassionate man who had been recommended by a friend. We sat in his office, the walls lined with legal books and diplomas, discussing the details of my financial and legal obligations. "Alex," Mark began, "I know this is a difficult process, but I'm here to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. We need to discuss your current financial situation and any future plans you might have." I nodded, feeling the weight of it all settle on my shoulders. "I want to be fair, Mark. I need to protect myself and ensure that I'm making the best decisions for my future." "Of course," Mark said reassuringly. "We'll make sure you are taken care of. Let's start with your current assets and liabilities." Over the next few hours, we went through every detail. It was a thorough and necessary process to ensure that I was setting myself up for success in this new episode of my life. The day the legal matters were finalized was a strange one. I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. With the practicalities taken care of, I could finally focus on rebuilding my life. I decided to take a short trip to clear my mind. I packed a bag and headed to the coast, renting a small cabin by the beach. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was soothing, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of calm. Each morning, I walked along the beach, the salty breeze filling my lungs and the sun warming my face. I watched the sunrise, feeling a sense of hope with each new day. It was a time of reflection and healing, and I began to see a path forward. One evening, as I sat on the porch of the cabin, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Laura, my sister. "How are you holding up?" she asked. I smiled, grateful for her concern. "I'm doing okay. The beach is helping. I think I needed this." "Good," she replied. "Remember, you're not alone. We're all here for you." Her words were a reminder of the support I had from my family. They had been my rock through this entire ordeal, and I knew I could rely on them as I rebuilt my life. When I returned to the city, I felt refreshed and ready to start anew. I threw myself into my work, taking on new projects and challenges. My colleagues noticed a change in me, and I felt more confident and driven. I also reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I joined a hiking group, started attending local events, and even took up painting, a hobby I had long forgotten. Each new experience brought a sense of fulfillment and joy. One evening at a gallery opening, I met someone. Her name was Megan, and she was an artist with a passion for life that was infectious. We struck up a conversation, and before long, I found myself laughing and smiling in a way I hadn't in months. Over the next few weeks, Megan and I spent more time together. She was kind, understanding, and full of life. She knew about my past, and she didn't judge me. Instead, she encouraged me to embrace the future and live in the moment. As our relationship grew, I realized that I was starting to let go of the pain and embrace the possibilities ahead. Megan was a light in my life, and I was grateful for her presence. In the months that followed, I continued to rebuild my life. I made new friends, found hobbies that brought me joy, and strengthened my bond with my family. I learned that healing is a journey, one that requires patience and perseverance. And through it all, I discovered a resilience within myself that I never knew existed. The pain of the past will always be a part of me, but it no longer defines me. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever the future held. Life was unpredictable, but I had learned to navigate its twists and turns. And with each new day, I felt more at peace, more hopeful, and more excited about the journey ahead. Settling into my new life was a slow but steady process. With each passing day, I felt more at ease and more capable of building the future I wanted. The fresh start was invigorating, and I threw myself into both work and social activities with a renewed sense of purpose. One afternoon, as I was finishing up a project at work, I received a call from Megan. Her voice was bright and enthusiastic. "Hey Alex, are you free this weekend? There's a local art fair happening downtown and I think you'd really enjoy it." I smiled, appreciating her effort to include me in her world. "That sounds great, Megan. I'd love to go." Saturday arrived and the day was perfect for an outdoor event. The sun was shining and there was a pleasant breeze in the air. When I met Megan at the entrance of the fair, she greeted me with a warm hug. "Ready to explore?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Absolutely," I replied. We wandered through the fair, admiring the various art pieces and chatting with the artists. Megan's knowledge and passion for art were contagious, and I found myself becoming more interested and engaged in the conversations. We stopped at a booth featuring abstract paintings, and I was struck by one particular piece that seemed to capture the essence of my recent journey, a chaotic mix of colors that somehow came together in harmony. "This one speaks to me," I said, pointing to the painting. Megan looked at it thoughtfully. "I can see why. It's like a visual representation of finding order in chaos. You should get it." I hesitated for a moment, but then decided to follow her advice. "You know what? I will." With the painting in hand, we continued to explore the fair. We sampled food from various vendors, listened to live music, and even participated in a pottery-making workshop. By the end of the day, I felt a sense of fulfillment and joy that I hadn't experienced in a long time. As we walked back to our cars, Megan turned to me. "Thank you for coming with me today, Alex. I had a wonderful time." "Me too, Megan. I really needed this," I admitted. She smiled and squeezed my hand. "I'm glad. Let's do this again soon." Over the next few weeks, Megan and I continued to spend time together. We explored the city, tried new restaurants, and even took a weekend trip to the mountains. Our bond grew stronger, and I found myself looking forward to our adventures. One evening, while we were sitting on a bench overlooking the city skyline, Megan turned to me with a serious expression. "Alex, I've been thinking a lot about us. I know you've been through a lot, and I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what." I looked at her, feeling a rush of gratitude. "Thank you, Megan. You've been a bright spot in my life. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I'm happy when I'm with you." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the city lights. "That's all that matters. Let's take it one day at a time." As the months passed, my life continued to improve. I advanced in my career, deepened my friendships, and maintained a close relationship with my family. Megan and I grew closer, and I felt a sense of stability and happiness that I hadn't known before. One Saturday morning, as we were having breakfast at a cozy cafe, Megan surprised me with a small box. "Open it," she said, her eyes twinkling. I opened the box to find a key inside. "What's this?" I asked, puzzled. "It's a key to my apartment," she said, smiling. "I think it's time we take the next step." I felt a surge of emotion and leaned over to kiss her. "I'd love that, Megan." Moving in together was a big step, but it felt right. We blended our lives seamlessly, supporting each other through the ups and downs. We decorated our apartment with a mix of our styles, creating a space that felt like home. With Megan by my side, I felt ready to face anything. Life was unpredictable, but I had learned to navigate its twists and turns. Each new day brought new challenges and opportunities, and I embraced them with open arms. In the end, I discovered that the journey to healing and happiness was ongoing. It required patience, resilience, and the support of loved ones. But with each step forward, I found myself growing stronger, wiser, and more hopeful about the future. Life with Megan had been everything I could have hoped for and more. Our days were filled with laughter, adventure, and a deep sense of companionship. From quiet mornings sipping coffee on our balcony to spontaneous weekend getaways, our bond only grew stronger with time. One lazy Sunday afternoon, we decided to take a leisurely stroll through the park. The weather was perfect, with a gentle breeze rustling the leaves and the sun casting a warm glow over everything. We walked hand in hand, talking about our plans for the future and sharing dreams of travel and new experiences. "I was thinking," Megan said, her eyes sparkling with excitement, "we should plan a trip to Italy next summer. I've always wanted to see the art in Florence and taste real Italian cuisine." "That sounds amazing," I replied, squeezing her hand. "I've always wanted to visit Rome and explore the ancient ruins. Let's start planning." We spent the rest of the afternoon sitting on a park bench, browsing travel guides on our phones and making notes of all the places we wanted to visit. It felt like we were building something beautiful together, and the future seemed bright and full of promise. Back at our apartment, we cooked dinner together, dancing around the kitchen to our favorite songs. Megan was an incredible cook, and she had taught me a few tricks in the kitchen. As we enjoyed our meal, we talked about our week ahead and the projects we were excited about. Later that evening, we settled on the couch, wrapped in a cozy blanket watching a movie. I felt a profound sense of contentment, grateful for the love and happiness we had found in each other. Just as the credits rolled, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I picked it up, glancing at the screen. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the caller ID. Jess. Megan noticed my reaction. "Who is it?" she asked, her brow furrowing slightly. "It's Jess," I said, feeling a knot form in my stomach. I should take this. I stepped out onto the balcony, taking a deep breath before answering the call. "Hello?" "Alex, it's me, Jess." Her voice was trembling. "I need to talk to you." "What's going on, Jess?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began. "I know things ended badly between us, but I can't stop thinking about you. I miss you, Alex. I want to try again to fix things between us." I was taken aback, not expecting this turn of events. "Jess, this is unexpected. I'm in a good place now, and I've moved on. Please, Alex," she pleaded, "just meet with me. Let's talk. We owe it to ourselves to see if there's anything left." I glanced back through the window at Megan, who was watching me with concern. My mind was racing, caught between the life I had built with Megan and the unresolved feelings from my past with Jess. "Okay," I finally said, "we can meet and talk, but you need to understand that a lot has changed." "Thank you, Alex," Jess said, relief evident in her voice. "I'll text you the details." I ended the call and took a moment to collect my thoughts before going back inside. Megan looked up at me, her eyes filled with questions. "Jess wants to meet and talk," I explained. "She says she misses me and wants to try again." Megan's face remained calm, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "What are you going to do?" "I agreed to meet her," I said honestly. "But Megan, my life is with you now. I need to do this to find closure, but it doesn't change how I feel about us." She nodded, though I could tell she was still uneasy. "I understand, just be careful, okay?" I reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I promise." The next few days were a blur of emotions. I tried to go about my routine, but the impending meeting with Jess weighed heavily on my mind. Megan was supportive, but I could sense the tension between us. Finally, the day arrived. I met Jess at a small cafe downtown, a place we used to frequent together. As I walked in, I saw her sitting at a table looking nervous and hopeful. Seeing her brought back a flood of memories, but I knew I had to stay focused on the present. "Hi, Jess," I said, taking a seat across from her. "Hi, Alex," she replied, her eyes searching mine. "Thank you for coming." We talked for a long time, rehashing the past and discussing what had gone wrong. Jess expressed regret for the choices she had made and spoke about the changes she had undergone since we parted ways. "I know I've hurt you, Alex," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I've changed. I want to make things right between us." I listened, feeling a mix of empathy and uncertainty. When she finished, I took a deep breath. "Jess, I appreciate everything you're saying," I began, "but my life has changed too. I found someone who makes me incredibly happy. Megan is my future now." Her face fell and she nodded slowly. "I understand. I just needed you to know how I felt." We parted on amicable terms, and as I walked back to my car, I felt a sense of closure. Jess was part of my past, but Megan was my future. When I returned home, Megan was waiting for me. I took her in my arms and kissed her deeply, feeling grateful for the love we shared. "How did it go?" she asked softly. "It went well," I replied. "We talked, and I got the closure I needed. But most importantly, it made me realize how much I love you and how much our life together means to me." Megan smiled, her eyes shining with relief. "I'm glad, Alex. I love you too." With that, we moved forward, more committed to each other than ever. Our love had been tested, but it had only grown stronger. And as we embraced the future together, I knew that no matter what challenges came our way, we would face them side by side. The days following my meeting with Jess were a whirlwind of emotions. Though I had reassured Megan of my commitment, an invisible shadow seemed to hover over us. Despite our best efforts, the tension lingered. One evening, Megan and I decided to take a walk through the park, hoping the fresh air would lift our spirits. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the landscape. We walked hand in hand, but the silence between us was palpable. "Alex," Megan finally said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I trust you, but I can't help feeling uneasy about Jess reaching out." I stopped walking and turned to face her, taking both of her hands in mine. "I understand, Megan. It's natural to feel that way, but I promise you, my past with Jess is just that, the past. You are my present and my future." She nodded, but I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. "I know, Alex. It's just, seeing you talk to her again brought back all those old fears. What if she tries to come between us?" I pulled her close, wrapping my arms around her. "She won't. I won't let her. What we have is too important to me." We continued our walk, talking through our concerns and fears. By the time we returned home, the tension had eased somewhat, but I knew it would take time for Megan to fully trust that Jess was no longer a threat to our happiness. The next few weeks were a test of our resilience. Megan and I focused on strengthening our bond, spending quality time together, and communicating openly about our feelings. We planned small getaways, tried new activities, and even started a new hobby, gardening. It was a therapeutic way to reconnect and nurture something beautiful together. One Saturday morning, as we were tending to our growing garden, my phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at the screen and saw it was from Jess. "Can we talk? I need to see you again." My heart sank. I had hoped that our last conversation had brought closure, but clearly Jess had other ideas. I knew I needed to handle this carefully to protect my relationship with Megan. I showed Megan the message, wanting to be transparent. Her expression tightened, but she appreciated my honesty. "What do you think she wants?" Megan asked, her voice tinged with concern. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I need to make it clear to her that there's no chance of us getting back together. I need to put an end to this once and for all." Megan nodded, though I could see the worry in her eyes. "Okay, Alex, just be careful." I arranged to meet Jess in a public place, hoping it would discourage any emotional outbursts. We met at a small cafe downtown, the same one where we had our previous conversation. Jess was already seated when I arrived, looking anxious. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. Jess, this needs to be the last time we meet like this, I said firmly. I need to move on with my life and you need to do the same. She looked down, her fingers nervously fidgeting with her coffee cup. I know, Alex, but it's hard. I still have feelings for you. I sighed, trying to keep my emotions in check. I understand, but I've moved on. I'm with Megan now and she makes me happy. You need to respect that. Jess nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I'm sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just needed to hear it from you. You have to let go, Jess, I said gently, for both our sakes. After a long pause, she finally agreed. Okay, I'll try. We said our goodbyes, and as I walked away, I felt a sense of finality. I hoped this would be the last time Jess would interfere in my life. Returning home, I found Megan in the garden, tending to our plants. I approached her, wrapping my arms around her from behind. How did it go? She asked, leaning into me. It's over, I said. I made it clear to Jess that there's no going back. We're moving forward, together. She turned to face me, her eyes filled with relief and love. Thank you, Alex. I trust you. The weeks that followed were a time of healing and rebuilding. Megan and I grew closer, our bond strengthened by the trials we had faced. We continued to nurture our garden, finding joy in watching it flourish, just as our relationship did. One evening as we sat on the porch, admiring our handiwork, Megan took my hand and squeezed it gently. I'm so glad we have each other, Alex. I can't imagine my life without you. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Me too, Megan. We've been through a lot, but it's made us stronger. I love you. I love you too, she replied, leaning in for a kiss. As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Our love was resilient, and with Megan by my side, I was ready for whatever the future held. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city skyline as Megan and I sat on our porch, sipping tea and watching the world go by. It had been a journey filled with ups and downs, but we had emerged stronger and more united than ever. As we reflected on the challenges we had faced, from the unexpected re-entry of Jess into our lives to the doubts and fears that had tested our trust, we also celebrated the moments of joy, growth, and love that had defined our relationship. I can't believe how far we've come, Megan said, breaking the comfortable silence between us. Me neither, I replied, taking her hand in mine. But I wouldn't change a thing. Every obstacle we've overcome has brought us closer together. Megan smiled, her eyes sparkling with happiness. I'm grateful for every moment with you, Alex. You've shown me what true love and commitment look like. We sat in companionable silence for a while longer, the sounds of the city fading into the background as we savored the peace and contentment of the moment. As the stars began to appear in the evening sky, I turned to Megan, my heart full of love and gratitude. Megan, there's something I want to ask you. Her eyes widened with anticipation. What is it, Alex? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my words. Will you marry me? Megan gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in surprise. Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded enthusiastically. Yes, Alex, yes, I would love to marry you. I pulled out a small box from my pocket, opening it to reveal a sparkling ring. I slid it onto her finger, and we sealed our commitment with a kiss under the starlit sky. The following months were a whirlwind of wedding planning, laughter, and love. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family, exchanging vows in a picturesque garden surrounded by blooming flowers. As we danced together for the first time as husband and wife, I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder and gratitude. Megan was my rock, my partner in life, and I knew that together we could weather any storm. Our love story was far from perfect, but it was real, honest, and full of passion. And as we embarked on this new episode of our lives together, I knew that our journey was just beginning. Looking back on everything we had been through, I realized that life was unpredictable, but love was a constant. With Megan by my side, I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold. As the night drew to a close and we said goodbye to our loved ones, Megan and I stood together, hand in hand, gazing up at the stars. Here's to us and to many more adventures together, Megan said, leaning her head against my shoulder. Cheers to that, I replied, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I love you, Megan. And I love you, Alex, she whispered, the words carrying the promise of a lifetime of happiness and love. And so, with hearts full of hope and dreams, we stepped into the unknown, ready to write the next episode of our love story, one filled with laughter, joy, and the enduring power of love. After our wedding celebration, Megan and I embarked on our long-awaited honeymoon to Rome. It was a dream come true for Megan, who had always wanted to explore the ancient city's art, history, and culture. We wandered through the cobblestone streets, hand in hand, marveling at the grandeur of the Colosseum, the beauty of the Vatican City, and the romance of the Trevi Fountain. Megan's eyes sparkled with joy and wonder at every new discovery, and I couldn't help but be swept away by her enthusiasm. One evening, as we stood atop the Spanish Steps, overlooking the bustling city below, Megan turned to me with a smile that lit up the night. "Thank you for bringing me here, Alex," she said, her voice filled with happiness. "This is everything I've ever dreamed of." I pulled her close, savoring the moment. "I would go anywhere with you, Megan. You make every adventure magical." As we continued our journey through Rome, we created memories that would last a lifetime. From romantic dinners overlooking the Tiber River to strolls through the enchanting streets of Trastevere, our honeymoon was a celebration of love, joy, and the bond we shared. During our honeymoon in Rome, amidst the ancient wonders and romantic vistas, Megan and I received the most incredible news. Megan was pregnant. It was a moment of pure joy and excitement, one that we shared under the Italian sun, our hearts overflowing with happiness and anticipation for the future. Our honeymoon took on a new significance as we marveled at the miracle growing within Megan. Every moment became a celebration of life, love, and the incredible journey ahead of us as parents. We explored the streets of Rome with a renewed sense of wonder, imagining the day when we would bring our child to experience the beauty of this city. As we returned home, hand in hand and with hearts full of dreams, we knew that our love story was entering its most magical episode yet, the journey of parenthood. With each passing day, Megan's belly grew, and our excitement grew with it. We attended prenatal appointments together, listening to the sound of our baby's heartbeat and marveling at ultrasound images that captured the tiny life blossoming inside Megan. Our home became a sanctuary of love and anticipation, filled with baby clothes, toys, and a nursery decorated with love and care. We spent evenings talking about our hopes and dreams for our child, imagining the adventures we would share as a family. And when the day finally arrived, when we held our precious baby in our arms for the first time, our hearts expanded with a love so profound it took our breath away. As we looked into our baby's eyes, we knew that our journey together was just beginning. Our love had created a new life, a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the beauty of new beginnings. As we watched our child grow, taking their first steps, saying their first words, and discovering the world with wonder and curiosity, we were reminded every day of the incredible gift of love that had brought us.